Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Chiranjit Mishra and today I'm going to discuss News Today version of March 9. There are 11 news items, 4 main news and 7 quick updates. So let's quickly go through the titles first. The first main news, the good thing is that many of the themes are related and they took place because of International Women's Day. Okay, so the first news is about participation of women in judiciary, then women-led development in India. Third is participation of women in the armed forces, just like the first news was related to judiciary. The third one is related to armed forces. Fourth is PM Janaushadhi Pariyojana. So this is the government scheme to sell generic drugs at very affordable prices. Let's go through the quick updates. The first quick update is about the Narcotics Control Bureau, so which actually recently bust nationwide darknet drug trafficking. Then this important piece of news which we have already covered a few weeks ago. It was about the motion related to Lok Sabha speaker removal. So now the time has come to consider the same. The third is about another missile, anti-missile system, that of the United States, just like Golden Dome. This is called THAAD, the High Altitude Area Defense. Okay, and it's a very powerful aerial defense technique. So it's in the news and the context is known. That is the Iran war. The fourth quick update is about the discovery of dark oxygen. Oxygen is believed to be a product of photosynthesis in the presence of light. But now there is something baffling that has been found, which is the presence of oxygen at a level of 4,000 meters below the ocean water. The next is about war of attrition. It's a nice concept, again related to Israel-Iran war, which is backed by the United States. Then Basant Utsav celebration in Shantiniketan. So we'll get to know how it started as a festival during the tenure of Rabindranath Tagore and how it was supported or funded by the royal family of Tripura. The last quick update is about the participation of India in United Nations Commission on Status of Women session. So there are so many women-centric news today, and mostly you'll find that the news items are essential for the mains. So let's start. The first news item about increase in the participation of women in judiciary, which is of course important from the point of view of GS paper 2. Now there are many challenges that are actually troubling the Indian judiciary, starting with the pendency of cases. As you know, nearly 5 to 6 crore cases are pending, mostly at the lower level. And then another challenge that the judiciary is facing, and as regards the first challenge regarding pendency of cases, there are many reasons there. Okay, starting from inadequate architecture, or you can say infrastructure. Second is about judicial vacancies. But a separate problem and also a serious cause of concern is the underrepresentation of women in the Indian judiciary. Okay, underrepresentation of women in the Indian judiciary. Okay, so you are going to get good fodder points. So underrepresentation of women in the judiciary is actually backed by several facts, some numbers and figures that we're going to discuss. Like for example, currently there is only one female judge among the 33 judges in the Supreme Court. The sanction strength is 33 plus 1, 34. Okay, and this is decided by the Parliament, the total strength of the Supreme Court under Article 124. Okay. So currently only one judge is there, only one female judge, that is Srimati V.V. Nagaratna, and she is going to be the first female CJI of India. But I can see the numbers are very abysmal. Okay, very disappointing. So that means 31 out of 33, that means 3% of the total strength. The figure is slightly better as regards High Court. It's close to 15%. That means 15% of the total High Court judges are female. As you go down, the number increases. But very less number of women, or very few women, actually rise up the cadre, rise up the hierarchy. So that is why the CJI, Honorable CJI, has mentioned that the pipeline, that means career progression of women in judiciary, is very leaky. It's a leaky pipeline. Leaky kab hota hai? That means there is some sort of leakage. Women start well, although as compared to men, very few women choose law as the profession, but whatever the number is, as they make further progress, the number reduces. That's why we have only one female judge in the Supreme Court. So let's quickly go through the further points as I mentioned in the beginning. Okay. CJ emphasized increasing women's representation in judiciary, and the context was a lecture given on the occasion of International Women's Day. Statement made at National Conference of Women in Law. Okay. Women representation in judiciary remains relatively low. Only one female judge, as I mentioned. Supreme Court string currently 33 judges. 33 plus 1, that is 34 is the maximum. Okay. 1 is your CJI. So, high courts have around 14.85 women judges. Please memorize these numbers. These are good further points to write an answer regarding underrepresentation of women in the judiciary. 37% of women judges at district courts. While some states have done really well, like Goa, in which 70% of the judges are women judges in the subordinate courts. But if you take a pan-India look, the figure is disappointing. And what are the reasons behind low representation? Of course, which is actually, I won't say patriarchal mindset, but yeah, there's a term used. I don't know how fair it is to use or mention in your exam answer. You can just, it's an informal term that is called, which is called boys club mentality. I would say refrain from using this particular phrase, but for a common understanding, you can easily try to understand the situation. Boys club mentality means something which is exclusive to a gang of boys. Okay, so that has been prevalent in the Indian judicial system. So historically favors longer male-dominated careers. Collegium system remains male-dominated. Collegium system, which came into being in 1993, second judges cases. Okay. It is also male-dominated. Limited senior women advocates in higher judiciary pipeline. Leaky pipeline reduces women reaching high courts. Now, who become judges ultimately? Advocates. First, this is the hierarchy. Junior advocate, okay. Senior advocate. Then you start as the lower judge, then High Court, then Supreme Court. If you look at the figure of the total number of registered advocates in India, that means vakil lawyers, that is close to your 20 lakhs. 18 to 20 lakhs. Now of that only 15% are women, 85% men. So the bias starts from there only. But as you rise further, the bias becomes more and more prominent. Okay. So gender bias still exists in legal institutions. Okay. Inadequate infrastructure affects women professionals. Sometimes the court briefings that take place at night. So when you are a junior judge, female judge, many female judges, they avoid working at night, okay, because we have inadequate infrastructure. So there is this actually attrition thing. That means many female judges at the junior level, even if they are efficient enough, even if they are competent enough, they quit. Okay, so that is why the pipeline is also called leaky pipeline. Pipeline means career progression. Pipeline यहाँ पे मतलब क्या है? Career progression. But जैसे ही आगे बढ़ते हैं, many female judges, they tend to quit. Okay. Importance of women in the judiciary. Now, to complete your answer, you have to show both the sides, positive sides, negative sides, or sometimes if the situation is negative itself, then you can end your answer by mentioning what could have been the situation had the problem been non-existent. अगर women होते judiciary में या क्यों होना चाहिए? Let's focus upon that. Greater representation promotes gender equality. Okay, that means more empathy in the system, more sympathy. Women judges enable gender-sensitive justice. Okay, because as you can see, crimes against women are on the rise. And if you compare, there is actually 3.5 to 1 ratio. If there are 3.5 criminal cases, 1 civil case, and crimes against women are on the rise. So involvement or participation of women in the judiciary becomes even more important. Diverse experiences influence judicial reasoning. Representative judiciary strengthens public trust. Diversity enhances legitimacy of justice system. Very generic points but important. Women judges act as role models. So if one woman becomes a judge, it will actually inspire many more women to take up judiciary as a profession. Law as a profession, not judiciary. Law as a profession. Encourages more women to join legal profession. That's it. Okay. So as I said, most of the news items today are related to mains, but they are good. There are many good fodder points that is going to help you enrich your answers. So don't miss the discussion. A question was asked, not related to judiciary, but again, participation of women. Discuss the contributions of civil society groups for women's effective and meaningful participation and representation in state legislatures in India. Okay, so now we also have a law in place, mandatory 33% reservation. But again, participation of women is more important. Without participation or involvement in the proceedings or sittings of the legislature, only nominal representation is not going to help. So what role can civil society groups play? Okay. Try to think about the important point. The second main news is about Pradhan Mantri Bhartiya Janaushadhi Yojana. So this Yojana was started in 2008 but under a different name. This new name was given in 2015. Okay, if you ask me, 2008 it was some Janaushadhi scheme or something like that. In 2015 it became this PM Bharat Janaushadhi Yojana. So Janaushadhi means generic drugs, because most of the drugs here means medicines. Because you know, I would say this particular Yojana is the second most important Yojana in the field of scheme in the field of healthcare in India. The first is Ayushman Bharat mission, which is about free healthcare, affordable healthcare. So when you get admitted in a hospital, money just flows out, money drains away. The second most important cost burden comes from medicines. Okay, a lot of out-of-pocket expenditure is done to buy medicines or drugs. Okay, to make drugs available and affordable, this scheme was launched, because most of the medicines that are available in the market, starting from anti-diabetes, antibiotics, they're actually very low-cost medicines. But when they're sold under a particular brand, the prices go up. Now, what if we just sell unbranded medicines? Medicine ka jo dawa ka effective, they have the same therapeutic effect. Therapeutic effect same hi hai. Then why to go for branded medicines? It's better to go to Janaushadhi Kendras. Okay, so these Kendras operate under this Yojana. That means the aim of the scheme is to make sure that drugs are affordable, effective. ऐसा नहीं कि because they're inexpensive, they're going to be less effective. No, equally effective, just like the branded medicines. Equally effective and always available. Okay, because there is a tendency to think that anything that is cheap or inexpensive is ineffective. No. If you just go to the Janaushadhi Kendras, a normal drug which is sold under a particular brand, that may cost you 100 rupees, say 100 rupees. If you go to buy the same generic drug at a Janaushadhi Kendra, that will cost you 20 rupees. 80% reduction. 20 rupees में आपको मिल जाएगा ये. ठीक है? So let's see how many drugs are covered and what are the achievements made so far and what you're planning to do. Again, the context here is why this was in the news. We celebrated or we observed Janaushadhi week starting from the first day of March, and we also observe Janaushadhi Divas on 7th March every year. Okay, Janaushadhi Divas. Janaushadhi Saptah means week observed, and Janaushadhi Divas observed on March 7th. Okay. Janaushadhi Divas promotes awareness of PM BJP, because without spreading awareness, you cannot expect people to avail this scheme. Tell people that generic medicines are available at very low cost, which is going to save a lot of money. Only then people will get to know about this scheme and the Janaushadhi Kendras. It was launched in 2008 as Janaushadhi scheme, as I said in the beginning, but it was revamped and renamed as Pradhan Mantri Bhartiya Janaushadhi Pariyojana. Okay. And I have already made it very clear, it provides affordable quality generic medicines nationwide. Now, health is a state issue. Health comes under state list. Okay. But because the government aims to achieve certain national level targets under SDGs, or before that MDGs, so that is why it is run by the central government, and the cost burden is shared between the center and the state. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. Nodal agency is your Department of Pharmaceuticals and Chemicals and Fertilizers. I am not very sure. I think it's central sector scheme, I guess, because Ayushman Bharat is centrally sponsored, 60-40. I have to check whether it is centrally sponsored or central sector, but most probably centrally sponsored. Under PM BJP, Janaushadhi Suvidha sanitary pads, 1 rupees each, and these are actually biodegradable. Okay. Sugam mobile app locates nearby Janaushadhi Kendras. So by installing an app, you'll get to know where the medicine stores are available. Kendras improve nationwide access to affordable medicines. Cooperatives strengthen rural last mile medicine access. And Janaushadhi Kendras are opened at railway stations also. Okay. So that means we have, I think, 15,000 Janaushadhi Kendras. We are planning to 18,000 currently, and we are planning to take it up to 25,000. Yeah. 18,000 Janaushadhi Kendras established nationwide, and Kendras include rural and remote regions. Medicines worth 7,700 crores sold by June 2025. Now let me add one point. Under this scheme, 2,110 of different types of generic drugs are available. Okay. And apart from that, some surgical equipments are also available. 315 in number. Types. Not 315 in number, 315 types of surgical equipments. That may include hand gloves, syringes and all that. Citizens saved about 38,000 crore. Basket includes 2,000 plus medicines and 300 plus surgical items. Yeah. The precise number is 2,110. Okay. A question was asked related to Ayushman Bharat. No question has been asked regarding this particular scheme, but it may be asked. So be prepared for Ayushman Bharat, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, and the other subcomponents. A question was asked, Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, consider the following statements. Private and public hospitals must adopt it. The first statement, must is always doubtful. As it aims to achieve universal health coverage, every citizen of India should be part of it ultimately. Every citizen of India. Again, you know that these schemes are for the downtrodden, those who cannot afford to pay for healthcare. It has seamless portability across the country. Very sweet looking and easy statement. It cannot be incorrect. So I can say that 3 seems to be correct. I'm not sure about 1 and 2. Let's say. Must here is doubtful. It's not for everyone. It's a voluntary scheme. Either you can take part or you cannot. So if I say 1 is wrong, then I can easily eliminate A, C and D. 3 is only correct. Okay, so the entire question depends upon the correctness of 1. Next, again, women-led development, and it can be covered under different GS papers, but mostly GS paper 2, social justice. Okay, now let's take a look at how development in India has been inclusive with regard to women. Okay, this year's union budget 2026-27, and actually it was historical in the sense because the largest amount so far as a percent of the total budget was allotted to different women-centric projects or initiatives. Okay, close to 10%. So let's go through what are the developments. Again, we have to take a glance and you can remember the numbers and figures. As I said, this year along with 2 other themes are called International Year of Women. This year is International Year of Women as per the United Nations. Okay, that is why so many discussions, debates and everything. And the theme is rights, justice, action of all women. Now memorizing actually helps you a lot. Those who memorize better, they can use those points and get that extra bonus or that additional mark So you'll stay ahead of your competitors. Try to memorize as much as possible, and here it's very easy to remember. Rights, justice, action for all women. So India promotes shift towards women-led development. Women recognized as drivers of economic progress. Why? Because they're taking part in all the economic activities, starting from entrepreneurship, innovation, okay, and employees across all the four fields of STEM: science, technology, engineering, mathematics. This year's budget was close to 10% of the union budget, which was dedicated to or earmarked for all the women-centric projects. Okay. And what are the various government schemes that support or benefit women, starting from Stand Up India scheme, Startup India scheme, Lakpati Didi, which supports rural women livelihoods, 3 crore women progressing towards higher incomes, Namo Drone Didi, that also covered under participation of women in Indian agriculture. So they can use drones and they'll be trained as pilots and assistants, using which they can spray insecticides, pesticides and fertilizers. Okay, Namo Drone Didi. And these drones will be given to SHGs, self-help groups. Scheme integrates women into technology ecosystem. 68% of PM Mudra beneficiaries are women. Jandhan 56%. Okay, and then Stand Up India supported over 2 lakh women entrepreneurs. So that means we have done really well, and we are going ahead in the right direction. Okay, so these are the important points that you can mention in your mains answer. That's it. The last main news is about contribution of women in the Indian Armed Forces. Just like the first main news was related to participation of women in Judiciary, this is related to Armed Forces. That means all the 3 branches: Indian Navy, Indian Army and Indian Air Force. So let's take a quick look. Women increasingly contribute to India's national defense. Women officers increased from 3,000 to 11,000 plus. And officers, earlier, we gradually started giving more and more opportunities to women in this field. So initially, it was temporary posting. But Supreme Court intervened and said that most of the posts can be made permanent also. It's called permanent commission. We started with temporary assignments under short service commission. Remember, short service commission, if a question is asked, this term is used in the context of participation of women in armed forces. So now it has been permanent commission. Permanent commission means jobs or employment with full opportunities, retirement benefits and everything, a longer career as compared to short service commission. So initially when we inducted women into Indian Armed Forces, we said maybe women are not that capable because this job is physically demanding, all the different tasks related to Indian Armed Forces. But women are intellectually at par with men. That is why permanent posts were given in the field, in those fields which are not combative in nature. Directly you don't have to use ammunition and artillery. Okay, but now combative roles are also being opened for women. So initially we started with short service commission, and due to the intervention of the Supreme Court, now permanent commission is also available for women. The UN gender parity target is 25%. That means if a country's armed forces has 100 people, then 25 of those 100 people should be women. We are trying to head towards this target. Captain, a few examples let's go through. Captain Hansa Sharma, first Rudra combat helicopter women pilot. Now this Rudra helicopter is actually a combat helicopter. Its non-combat counterpart is your Dhruv. Dhruv is a very light helicopter used for carrying people and arms and ammunition and other requirements, utilitarian needs. But its combative counterpart is a Rudra. That means using this helicopter you can take part in direct action. And Captain Hansa Sharma became the first woman or female pilot to drive this helicopter. Women expanding into leadership and strategic roles. Lieutenant General Sadhna Nair, DG Medical Services Army. There are 2 examples which you can memorize: Captain Hansa Sharma and Lieutenant General Sadhna Nair. Please pay attention to the initials also, the titles given to the personnel of the armed forces. A question was asked in the prelims. Women contribute to UN peacekeeping missions. So that means India also contributes to the United Nations peacekeeping force. It was the highest contributor. Now I think it's Bangladesh. India is at number 2 or 3. India achieved 22% women staff officers observer representation. That is also a global representation. So what are the steps taken by the government to encourage more and more women participation, starting from reservation of women or female children in Sainik schools, which were earlier all boys schools. Permanent commission granted in 12 army staff services, not all of them. Permanent commission means longer service tenure with full employment benefits. Women admitted to NDA from 2022. Okay, earlier they were not allowed. 10% seats reserved for girls in Sainik schools, which is a great step in this direction. Women inducted into fighter pilot streams, as we have already mentioned, Captain Hansha Sharma. Women entering combat roles in Indian Armed Forces. Squadron leader Bhavna Kant, combat qualified fighter pilot, and women are also employed under Agnipath scheme as Agniveers. Okay, so these are the steps taken by the government. Again, these are good fodder points for your mains answer. Quick updates. The first quick update is about the busting of a network which operated online under dark web. So dark web, as you know, what are the points you need to remember? You don't need to memorize the name of the syndicate, the crime syndicate, because UPSC never asks questions on themes that are negative in nature. For example, names of terror groups. Okay, so far it hasn't asked, and I think it's going to continue the trend because negative things should not be remembered. Okay, Team Kalki was the name of that syndicate, crime syndicate, which was selling drugs, some narcotic drugs online. Okay, what do you need to remember? What is the role of NCB, that is narcotics, already mentioned, Narcotics Control Bureau, and it comes under Ministry of Home Affairs. What is interesting is that this body was established under an act which is governed by the Ministry of Finance or Department of Revenue, and this act is called Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act 1985. Okay, that time marijuana or ganja was like used by a number of young people. That is why an act was needed and to nab the criminals involved. And this act operates under the purview of Department of Revenue Intelligence, which comes under Ministry of Finance. A body was organized which is called Narcotics Control Bureau under this act, but the body comes under Ministry of Home Affairs. Now 4 or 5 years ago, I think in 2022, it was decided that along with this body, the act will also be transferred to Ministry of Home Affairs. But so far no progress has been made, I guess. Okay. And what are psychotropic substances? This is also a concept you need to remember. These are mood altering substances. That means after consuming these substances, your central nervous system will be affected. Okay. You will have higher sensory experiences. Okay. Which may give you temporary pleasure, but it takes a toll on your physical and mental health. A similar drug was actually at the center of a TV series, popular TV series called Breaking Bad, which is called methamphetamine. Okay, meth is a short form of methamphetamine. So MDMA is also a type of methamphetamine. Okay, I think the amphetamine, not the whole compound, the last benzene chain. LSD is another drug which is also called, I think, Lucy informally, and this is also called a hallucinogen that causes hallucinations. So the accused were using darknet. Another concept you have to understand, darknet. What is darknet? Darknet is that part of the deep net. Okay, we have normal internet or the worldwide web. So internet is actually the connectivity between all the computers and servers across the world. World Wide Web is actually the list of all the websites that have been indexed. It's called normal web or surface web. Okay. But imagine that the surface web is like a book, a kitab hai. Kitab ke starting mein there is preface, acknowledgement, and then there is index. Index ke under chapters are mentioned, sub chapters are mentioned, diagrams, images. So that is like the normal internet. There can be a few pages in that book which are not indexed. So you can only accidentally reach those pages using certain softwares. That is called deep web. Deep web is that part of the web which is not indexed. So those websites that form the part of the deep web cannot be accessed using normal search engine. आप Google के जरिए उनके तक नहीं पहुंच सकते. So that's why we used the onion router or called Tor. And a part of this deep web is dark web. Dark web means नाम से पता चला the bad part of deep web. Okay, that is illegally run, especially to commit or get involved in criminal activities, selling drugs, trafficking women and all that. Okay, and this is deliberately hidden. कभी-कभी deep web में everything is not deliberately hidden. Sometimes maybe a particular page is temporary and it is not indexed. But dark web में it's deliberately hidden. Okay, so dark web is that part of the deep web which is deliberately hidden and it is not indexed and cannot be accessed using normal search engines. Okay, so what is important from the point of view of mains here? This line, the growing use of digital technologies, cryptocurrency and encrypted communication in drug trafficking networks. You can use these keywords also. Cryptocurrency, encrypted communication. That means it cannot be decoded easily. Okay. The next important news, we had covered it a month ago because when the budget session started, the opposition actually issued a notice regarding the removal of the Lok Sabha speaker. And now the matter has been taken into consideration. First, you have to issue a notice, okay? And that notice has to be given 14 days prior to, at least 14 days prior to when it is being taken up. And this notice has to be supported by 50 members, okay? We want the Lok Sabha speaker to be removed. Only when it is accepted, the resolution will be considered. And when the resolution is passed by at least 50% of the total members present, of the then members, not present, of the then members. For example, if 552 is the maximum strength, 545 के लिए अगर voting हो गया, maybe say 530 is the current strength, okay, because 15 vacancies हैं. तो 530 का 50% कितना हो रहा है? 265. That means 266 people should vote for it. Not the number of people present and voting, because this is a big issue, okay. The motion has to be supported by 50 members. Which one? The notice. But this removal of the speaker, for the resolution to be passed, it has to be passed by 50% of the total then members. Okay. And the accusation is that the Lok Sabha speaker is biased. Okay. So that is the reason. And now the matter is under discussion. And when the matter is being discussed, the Lok Sabha speaker cannot preside over the meetings. He will just act like a normal member of the Lok Sabha. He has voting rights, but he cannot vote in the first instance. He loses his power of casting vote. We had discussed this previous year question also. Please read thoroughly this office. 6 to 7 questions have been asked, and we have discussed all the questions in one of the previous version of News Today. Okay. So when the matter is under discussion, the Lok Sabha speaker is still a member of the Lok Sabha but cannot preside over the Lok Sabha proceedings. He can vote but cannot, loses the power of casting vote. Okay, that's it. Third missile. This is a missile which is that of the United States, just like Golden Dome we discussed. Golden Dome is more advanced than THAAD. But THAAD has been in use during this war against Iran. So what is THAAD? That means if a missile is coming from an enemy country, you will send another missile to burst it. Okay. The special thing about this THAAD system is that it targets a missile when this missile has crossed this phase and is about to fall. It is just entered the Earth's atmosphere, about to fall. This THAAD missile system, the missiles used in the THAAD system, will come and hit the enemy missile so hard that the enemy missile will just burst. Okay. So what technology is going to use? The missiles are not going to drop bombs. They are just going to use the fact that enough momentum can be applied to destroy the enemy missile. Rate of change of momentum. So this technology is called hit to kill. Okay. hit to kill technology. I hope you understood. If an enemy missile is coming, third missile, those missiles which form the third system, that of the United States, they will simply hit that missile, nothing else. But the impact will be so hard, so high, that the enemy missile will burst. Okay. And when it's going to hit the enemy missile, when it is about to fall in this direction, ये वाले phase में नहीं, it's called terminal phase. Remember two keywords here. One is your hit to kill, kinetic interception. That means kinetic means anything that is moving, or the power or energy possessed by an entity because of its motion. It's pure physics. Okay. And it often hits the missiles in the terminal phase. This is the initial phase, the missile ऐसे जाता है, and this is the terminal phase when the missile is coming towards the earth or ground. Okay. A question was asked on third. This time they may ask a question on Golden Dome or Iron Dome. Let's see. बहुत ही easy सा question था. CSC prelims 2018 में. What is terminal high altitude area defense threat sometimes seen in the news? Israeli radar system, India's indigenous anti-missile program, and American anti-missile system. This is the correct answer. Okay. So please go through all these names related to, for example, military exercises, defense equipments. Okay. Helicopters. 2023 में भी क्वेश्चन आया था, 25 में. There was a pair-based question. Dark oxygen and deep Pacific. So dark oxygen is not dark in color, it's just normal oxygen. We believe that oxygen under normal circumstances is produced during photosynthesis. Okay, in the presence of light, photosynthesis. Okay, photo means light and synthesis means production. That means to be produced, oxygen needs light, or we need light to produce oxygen. But this is baffling because this is called dark oxygen, because it is produced in the absence of light. And what is the mechanism? Some people believe the mechanism may be electrolysis. That means passing electric current to split water. समंदर में पानी होता है. If you pass electricity, now who is going to pass electricity? It's a natural process. There are polymetallic nodules which consist many elements like cobalt, nickel, etc. Maybe it's the ions or natural movement of ions that somehow generate enough electricity to split a water molecule into H2 plus half O2. Okay, this is believed to be, this is the process, but the accelerator of this reaction or the inducer is your electricity, because there cannot be any light in deep ocean. Deep ocean here means we're talking about 4,000 meters below, and this zone is called Clarion-Clipperton zone. Okay, remember this name. And this zone lies in Pacific Ocean. Okay, Clarion and Clipperton are actually the names of two different islands which are found between Hawaii and Mexico. Hawaii is actually an island and Mexico. ये वाला जो part है Pacific Ocean का, there this zone is found. Okay. Oxygen may be produced through electrochemical reactions. Maybe. The real cause has not yet been discovered. We just guess that this might be the reason why oxygen is produced in the absence of light. May influence research on deep sea life and astrobiology. Now we can say if oxygen can be produced in these conditions without the presence of light, that means early life or life in some other planets can also happen and be possible without the absence of, with the absence of light or without the presence of light. Okay. Now, the last news is your war of attrition. So this is a strategy that the United States and Iran, they're both adopting to gradually weaken your enemy. War of attrition means war of wearing down. Okay. Wearing down your enemy. That means exhaust your enemy to the point that they become weak. Exhaust your enemy. And this happens when you know that your enemy is also reasonably powerful. That means it's not a weak enemy or weak opponent. This strategy is used. For example, अगर किसी के पास 60 है, किसी के पास 40 है strength, then also you cannot ignore that 40. It's not between 99 and 1. जिसके पास 99% ज़्यादा power है किसी और से, that can be easily victorious. But when you see that your enemy has also comparable strength, then you can only wait for your enemy to fade down in strength or die. Okay, so gradual wearing down, this strategy, which is a military strategy, is called war of attrition, and which was very famous in both the world wars, the First World War and the Second World War. And a famous example is your Battle of Stalingrad. Many movies are made on that. Okay, the war between Germany and Russia on the Eastern Front. So it focuses on continuous losses rather than quick victories. Common when opposing forces have similar military strength. Often involves long battles and heavy casualties. People keep fighting for days, weeks, and months. It's not like that you simply trap your enemy, okay, capture its head or the head of the government or the head of the state, and he surrenders and the game is over. No. In a way, you can say also Ukraine-Russia war, which is such a protracted battle, that also in a way is war of attrition. The European powers are supporting Ukraine, so that maybe one day Russia will become totally worn out. Seeks to weaken the enemy's resource and morale. It's a mental and physical burden. Basant Utsav at Shantiniketan, which is in West Bengal. So, two important points you have to remember. Basant Utsav means spring season. Okay. So it was first time celebrated in 1907 during the Swadeshi movement. Okay, that time Shantiniketan was actually the concept or ideated by Sri Rabindranath Tagore, and it was celebrated by his son for the first time, Samindranath. Okay, and because Shantiniketan is in West Bengal, close to Kolkata, but this festival was funded by Tripura royal family. That is why they have a large stake in this festival. Okay. Tripura royal family funded. Vishwa Bharti is the name of the university in Shantiniketan. And Shantiniketan was also assigned or granted UNESCO World Heritage Site status in 2023. This much is enough. और कुछ जानना नहीं इसमें. There are 44 UNESCO World Heritage Sites currently. Okay. Last news about participation of India in the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women meeting. So this commission comes under one of the 6 organs of the United Nations. This is not one of the 6 organs. This comes under, or this is a part of one of the 6 organs of the United Nations, and that organization is your ECOSOC. Okay, very important organ, Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. So what is the role of this commission, UN commission? Iska kaam hai, focuses on the only intergovernmental global body that focuses on gender empowerment and parity. Okay, its headquarters is in New York. And about ECOSOC, which is one of the 6 organs of the United Nations, along with your United Nations General Assembly, Security Council, Trusteeship Council. Okay, and so not agencies. For example, UNICEF, UNESCO, these are agencies. Okay, but these councils are your 6 organs. International Court of Justice. It has 54 members, okay, and it is one of the 6 organs of the United Nations. So that's all about today's news today. Now 6 questions will flash on your screen. And lastly, as we keep repeating, try to make the most of the digital current affairs initiative of the Vision IS to enrich your knowledge in current affairs. Wish you all the very best.